Hi, and welcome to Business Source, brought to you by Connecting Business, the show that gives you authentic conversations to help your business. There's no smoke and mirrors, just real people sharing their experiences. I'm your host, Lee Nightingale, and today we're going to be talking about making that leap into a startup business from being employed with Hector Forwood. Hector is founder of Hoist, and I'm going to let Hector himself describe what that is. Hector, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me, Lee. I'm going to talk today a little bit about what helped me make the leap from having a job to doing something crazy like starting a startup. And Hoist is a platform that enables people to be more productive by utilizing keywords assigned to links and files so that you never have to drag and drop and copy and paste. And yeah, it's really simple software, and that's what I wanted to create, something easy to use for everyone.
Fantastic. Wow, there's a lot to be chewing on there. Not least of all, of course, making that jump from being comfortable in a position and getting paid and not having to stress too much about your daily job and all the things that the creature comforts that come with being employed into startup, and you're solely responsible for that revenue. But just to dig into the Hoist platform for a minute, so you're saying it's a productivity tool. For example, my own personal view is I hate things like SharePoint because things just get lost. You save something there and then you can forget, you do forget where it is, and therefore it becomes redundant. But obviously in this day and age we are bringing together lots of different medium, whether it be documents or links. So does your platform help to sort of bring those together more easily? Just share a bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the idea behind it started when at my previous role, I was a AE and then a head of sales, and I'd probably done, I don't know, something in like 3,000 demos across the 3 years that I was working there. And I had got incredibly bored of, after every demonstration, repeatedly sending the same information, whether that be content, so pricing decks, information decks, or the same blocks of information. And I'd had access to all the kind of market leading tools, whether that be, HubSpot Sales, Outreach, Salesloft, to name but a few.
Yeah.
And still, even with access to those, I found myself requiring to go dive into my cloud storage, which was kept in such a mess, and wanting to be able to recall those files that I'd use regularly really, really easily. And so after, sitting there for the 1,000th time, just getting incredibly bored and thinking I can fix this problem by using keywords. So I scoped it out a little bit and found solutions that were similar, but not something the way that I would do it. And that was kind of the conception, which was about November of 2019. And I got a PowerPoint presentation and then basically just sketched it out, gave it to my friend who's a bit technical, who said, yeah, this is kind of interesting. And then it kind of grew from there.
Wow. Well, so you clearly got that startup bug then, that we all get, that sort of itch. I guess for some it comes earlier on in their career and they're just natural entrepreneurs. For other people, probably myself included, we go through an employment career. I'm not going to focus on the negative, I'm going to focus on the positive, picking up skills along the way that when we get to a certain point, we're like, do you know what, I actually know quite a bit about ABC, and there's clearly a requirement out there for those skills. People are coming to me naturally for help with that kind of thing, whatever it may be. And yeah, well, why not? Let me research and find out if there's something there. And if I were to make that leap and go it alone, could I make a success of it? What's it going to take to make a success of it? Because it's scary come day one when you're starting that new company and you literally have nothing, depending on how you made the journey, the jump. But when you're in employment, the marketing collateral's there, the websites are all there, the product support's there, development, sales, everything is there for you. And then you come day one in the new company and there's zero. No corporate PowerPoint, no sales process, no order fulfillment process, all that kind of stuff. So can you share your journey and your transition? How long did you remain in employment before making that jump? How did you make that transition?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I was very lucky, and I had a very atypical introduction to the software space. And the reason I say that is because so my father was a venture capitalist, so from the age of about 13, 14, he'd always had me having a look at various companies, but he specialized in kind of just before IPO stage, so they were really big, established. And then when I entered the sales career path especially, I actually worked for one company, did pretty well, selling basically street food traders to events planners, which was easy in comparison to selling to senior executives of sales and marketing. And the first 6 months of joining that startup, I was employee number 6, and then spending 3 years there and making it all the way from SDR, so cold calling, all the way through to director, where I was managing my own team. And I learned everything because it was really scrappy in the early days. We were pivoting our messaging, our industry selection every 2 weeks. And what made that really tough is that if you were trying to communicate in the same language as your prospects, so you only just get to grips with communicating with people in something like recruitment, because not everyone knows what a PSL is, like a preferred supplier list. And then you're suddenly shifting towards marketing agencies, and they're talking to you about things like SEO. And every industry has all these different acronyms. And that piece, especially finding your product market fit, is exceptionally difficult. And like any startup, you wear so many different hats. And I was actually asked to design our first case studies, and they were abhorrent. I mean, they looked like a kind of abstract painting, some of them, when I, when I was doing them initially. And because I've already gone through all of these different hoops before, when I progressed into doing Hoist, I actually had quite a clear roadmap in my head of what I needed to accomplish and get the building foundations in place. So, do the operations part, do the marketing piece, do the sales pieces. And so all those building blocks started gradually falling into place, and it was just a case of putting in some elbow grease and slowly but surely gathering traction that way. I'm kind of curious, with your business, Lee, how did you know what to build and when in terms of those foundations?
Yeah, great question, because I wouldn't say forced into starting the company, but I took a redundancy package from my employed job and took a year and a half out and did various things that I'd just not had the time to do during that career. So I guess I didn't have any distractions of working a full-time job. I could devote myself fully to this. It started out as a contract role, bomb for hire on a seat, but I was managing multiple companies within a company, and I thought, well, I can manage multiple clients, multiple stakeholders within this one company. That's no different to having multiple clients. So I thought, yeah, I'm pretty sure I can do this. And people kept coming to me and asking for my support and advice and everything. And what I'd done was I kind of thought, well, if I'm going to do this, what are all the different elements I need? Because clearly you can't do everything from day one, but what do you absolutely critically need in order to operate? So I just mind mapped the whole thing, just got loads of big, A2 sheets of paper, and was just drawing the whole sales process out, the marketing process, the the delivery aspect. What happens when someone says, right, send me a quote, or yes, I'll buy that. What happens then? What do they get? And then how do I actually make that happen? How do we interact? So I guess then once I'd got all the different elements and I'd taken all that experience from all the various different companies I'd worked within, and that really helped. But I basically sort of highlighted and underlined everything that was day one critical, and then okay, what can wait? What's so it's kind of like absolutely critically now. Then there's more like, well, it's kind of now. It's immediate, but I don't have to do it day one. It can probably wait until week 2, 3, 4, maybe a month or two down the line. Like for example, a website really wasn't mission critical to get going, so you don't divert your focus on building the website. But things like having email set up where it looks professional, you've got the right domain, and you've got all your headers, footers, and signatures and everything, so you look like a genuine company. And making sure you're able to bring a quote together. So bringing a quote together is, okay, what are we going to sell the services for, and what's our cost, so we can understand, making sure we're making profit, because there's no point being in business if you're not making profit. So it's kind of doing that analysis, making sure we could transact and communicate with the technology, email, etc., and then making sure that what we were quoting was profitable. So those were the first key elements of what we did, and sort of all the marketing stuff, the PowerPoints and the websites and case studies and all that kind of stuff came way down the line. And I guess thinking about delivery and actually delivering on the services that we do, how am I going to do that? If I'm going to be doing it all myself, which I was capable of doing at the time, that then diverts your focus from establishing the business and getting out there and promoting and scoping out new contracts, networking, meeting new clients. So yeah, I quickly established that I couldn't do it all on my own, and I needed to partner with other people or other companies to help that scale.
Okay, so almost nice to have versus needs to have from that day one. So as you're saying, mission critical. I myself find it difficult to make that difference, because rather than having, I guess, if you're delivering on a service, because you're providing that implementation for Salesforce and kind of consultancy piece, when I'm delivering software, it's either it's installed and it works from day one, and they do kind of a trial period POV, and then it just kind of maintained ongoing customer support throughout that, which I found difficult, or it just doesn't work, which is something that I found as the startup being particularly interesting. Is sometimes stuff breaks, and everything gets set on fire. The worst day I've had so far was Google sent me an email saying, please can you pay us $75,000, and it's because we were using their API. And if it's hosted through the API, hosted through your own domain, it's fine. But if you start doing it through other people's domains and kind of rerouting it that way, you have to pay for that service. And so I feel like managing fires is something that comes in conjunction with it. And I was wondering, from a executing on a service standpoint, if you can relate to those kinds of issues as well, especially in the early days of when you were setting up.
Oh gosh, yeah. First of all, wow. I hope you managed to get that one sorted out.
Well, my hairline hasn't, though, unfortunately. Lost a few.
Yeah, me too. The stress of startups, hey. I think for us, there's, when you're starting out and I'd got sort of one client and then and two, you kind of thinking, how many can we manage given the number of skills we've got? At what point does it break and the quality of service gets degraded? And that's something that I've tried to stay true to throughout my almost 7 years now of operating. Was that I'm not going to aggressively go out there to get new business to the point where it's going to be detrimental to the quality of the service for existing clients. So that's been really key, and managing the resources that I have, in so much as not going out and hiring loads of great people, not having any work for them to do. They get bored, they just leave, and then you get kind of a reputation uh, that way within the employee community. And secondly, they're expensive. Having people sat on the bench doing nothing and not earning you any money. So it was about finding that balance, and not having too many or too few people on our bench, if you like, to call upon when needed. So that was really the big juggling act for us. Yeah.
Did you start with just yourself from day one, or did you have a couple of people to lean on when you were starting out?
So I started out, and I still am, just me within the organization. But I partnered with, right from day one, partnered with a very good friend of mine that I'd worked with previously. He'd set up a tech company. So what transpired was that I'm very commercial focused, front end relationships, new business, project management, business analytics, reporting, all that kind of stuff. And he and his team were the back end operations, the actually making it happen, the actual tech delivery team. And we worked on the first project together, and it went, all things considered, considering it was a new venture, first new client. We were working over weekends, into the nights, trying to over deliver, as you do, trying to make yourselves look good, saying, we'll do it in 4 weeks, but we actually did it in 3, and all this kind of stuff, because we wanted to stress test ourselves and see what it takes to actually get those projects delivered. What's absolute burnout. So that, I guess, if you've gone through that, knowing, okay, a project should really take 4 weeks, but we've managed to do it in 2 or 3. What detrimental impact did it have on the staff? Were they burnt out? Did they need some time out? Were other clients left waiting because the resources weren't available? But if, I guess what it provides is, let's say you are a little bit quiet and a new project does come in, you can fairly confidently say, right, okay, this project does take 4 weeks. However, we think that we can get it done in 2.5, 3, so you can get going with it, and you position it however you want. You don't really want to be saying, we're really quiet right now. It depends the relationship you've got with the client, of course, but it's kind of knowing at which points put extra stress on the team, because it has a detrimental impact down the line. So it was great to be able to sort of stress test that in the early days, and everybody jump in, all hands to the pump, get these projects done as quickly as possible whilst retaining quality of service, to know, actually, right, we busted our ass on this. But really, we don't want to be doing that on every job. It's not scalable. You can't offer that level of service to all clients, because we would just break. Or we would need, a huge team of people that would be focusing that intensively, and that's just not good for them or for us. So we were able to sort of scale it back a bit and say, right, yeah, that 4 to 6 week window is actually really where we should be committing ourselves, to give ourselves some leeway, not put extra pressure on us, allow for curveballs coming in, that kind of stuff. How about you? Did you sort of have a similar experience?
um, I think for me, in tandem with kind of pushing myself to deliver the software on time, and to the relevant people, engage with the stakeholders within organizations. It's a little bit different, because we're not executing on a project, whereas I just basically will send a password and enable someone to log on. What I did find myself doing more was, in tandem with what you refer to as stress testing, is getting case studies, because the case studies, particularly in the early days, are the hardest thing to acquire, and you need about I would say 3 or 4, which has been my goal to get those. Because once you have them, you can kind of shout them from the rooftops. And no matter if it's a company no one's ever heard of, as long as they have an active website, I found,
Yeah.
then it's absolutely fine to say we work with company X, company Y, and company Z. And then you can use those in the same industries because they might have come across them, then they might have not, as well as customer referrals. And I think, you know, if you are delivering projects a week shorter than you've promised, you know, they're going to go and tell all of their friends and say, hey, you really need to work with these guys. They executed a week before, they cost X amount less, and they really went above and beyond. But at the same time, I guess on your side, if you're focusing on a commercial standpoint, you need to manage expectations, which I've found as well, especially in the early days of us, where, as I was saying earlier, things will always go wrong, and it's just like, okay, you know, we're going to get this fixed, but whilst this is going on, is there anyone else that you would think that may benefit from this? Likewise, particularly when you have a software product, it's you build as a book I'm going to talk about later, but you basically build 80% of something so that it works, and then you let the users direct the final 20%. And so I'm very involved to try and get that information to help direct that last 20%, which is where my main focus is, because ultimately I can speculate for day in, day out about what I think people want, but I'm probably wrong because I'm one person. Whereas if I have 100, 200, 300 users, that's a way bigger sample size to say, hey, you should be building this specific feature set. Which has been really interesting, and just to hear other people's ideas, especially from a conception standpoint, because when I thought about it and what I envisioned has already changed so much drastically because of feedback, which is kind of exciting, which means the product's living and it's always moving forward in a different direction, and taking you yourself as a founder on a completely different journey.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I think that communication, that dialogue with clients or prospects that you're hoping to become clients in those early days is critical, and we end up probably giving a bit more away than we would ordinarily. Because we really want them as a client. We know we need them as clients, but there's also an expectation, a want or a need, if you like, from us, that we need that feedback, you know, rather than just, hey, you're signing, you're having, or you're buying access to this platform. There you go. Here's what it does. Thanks very much. You know, you're very much that, and we really would value your thoughts, opinions, feedback on how we can improve it. And so generally, when you ask that of some, you know, you get some that are very, very willing, and you know, they really enjoy that because they feel like they're helping you to develop that product, and they feel part of some things. That's great. But then others are like, well, I don't have much time, so what's in it for me? You know, you're going to give me some extra discount, you're going to give me some freebies, some extra consulting, you know, whatever it may be. So I guess we have to be careful not to completely lift our skirts up and show everything, and give you know the crown jewels away. So that must have been a challenge in the early days.
Yeah, it has been, and actually, what was really strange is I was planning to use the same model that Grammarly utilized, where they did something referred to as reverse monetization, where basically you do enterprise sales. So in the first 3 years, Grammarly signed up about 200 universities and about 350,000 students, and then they gradually made their product more and more free over time. I read 0 to 1 recently by Peter Thiel, and came across the term product-led growth. And so the first kind of elements of the product that Hoist are actually free. And eventually what I plan to do is, you know, create a kind of a premium model. So if anyone is listening and wants to utilize it, they can just go on the website and register, and I'll send them a login. And that is purely because I feel like the product, although very useful in its current state, it still has a ways to go. And I understand that success doesn't happen overnight. Whereas something like what you're offering is, well, as you said yourself, can take 3 or 4 weeks to execute. And so I don't think you can get away with lifting your skirt quite as much. Whereas for me, the actual investment and cost, other than collecting the feedback, which is this trade-off I make in agreement, is, hey, you can have a free license, but I want to understand exactly what it is that you like about it and what do you want to see more of. And that's the trade-off, which is, I guess, how things like Gmail, etc., have scaled and worked. But it didn't quite play out in my head how I wanted to, which was a real learning experience when I say, oh, okay, so people wouldn't pay for it just in its current state like this.
Right.
Yeah, it was a learning curve.
What's just a curveball then here? What's been your biggest challenge then to date? Something that sort of hindsight, 2020 vision, and all the rest of it, that if you could pass on to somebody else in a similar situation, where you can say, yeah, I really didn't see that coming, or make sure you sort of watch out for this. Have you got any sort of gotchas, if you like?
I think I've got a couple. The first is, so my background is sales, so I knew nothing about product development or developers, which are two completely different things. And no matter how many books you read, nothing will prepare you for designing something and then it taking 3 times as long to actually have a physical piece of software in your hands.
Yeah.
So the time delay. The other thing was, I actually co-founded this with 2 other individuals, and I was in a very different position because I was able to create enough of a nest egg to support myself, and one of the other co-founders wasn't, and they essentially left because, well, their father was starting a business, and so they asked them to go and basically help and support them. And
Okay.
I think when you are having those initial conversations and selecting who your co-founders are, you have, like, life gets in the way. People are going to get married, people are going to have their, someone else say, hey, I've got this idea in their family potentially, which is going to cause them to leave. And even if you give them a substantial amount of equity, there's still things that will just come up and you can't plan for those. And that was probably one of the biggest learning curves. And when you're solely relying on yourself, it's very, very different rather than having someone to bounce ideas off. The other thing is, I wish I'd got mentors sooner. So I have 3 people that I speak to, I would say once a month, maybe once every 2 months. And that support network of people who have been through it before are a completely invaluable resource. And I think when I started and conceived the idea, I was maybe a little bit naive and just was like, yeah, you know what, my old boss did it, I can do it, and it's going to be as easy, if not easier. And it's just not. It's immensely difficult, and there's a reason not everyone tries to start their own thing. And I think those are probably the 3 takeaways that I'd share with everyone.
Fantastic. Thanks for that. I appreciate the candidness there. I think certainly the one of those things that hits hard with me is the mentorship, and it was something that I recognized very, very early on. Probably, so I was sort of contracting, I guess, at tail end of 2013, and then by mid 14 is when I started to have thoughts around, turning it into a business. And something just hit me one day, and I was like, I'm not sure I can do this on my own. I think I can do it on my own, but I don't know what it is. I don't know the unknowns, the known knowns, the known unknowns, the unknown knowns, and all the rest of it. It's too big a question for me to chew on my own, and I needed to talk it through with somebody. And thankfully, I'd started becoming friends with a guy, Lauren Jenkins, who has done one of these podcasts with us, and he became my business coach mentor, where he was asking me all the difficult questions because he was emotionally disconnected from it and just saw noughts and ones, the binary. He just saw the facts and was just, I'm not going to say brutal with me. It was done in a very respectful, sensitive way, but he did ask me brutal questions, and challenged me if I gave an answer that was just not going to stack up. So that really helped, because before I really started to turn the volume up on it and scale it up in early 15, I'd already asked and been asked all those difficult questions and plugged all the holes that I had in my approach, to make sure that I was able to scale when when the volume did turn up. So I'm a big fan of that. Unless you're a seasoned veteran, in a particular field where you've got tens of years of experience, where you've been through the mill, even then, and of course, then you can be a mentor yourself to somebody much younger who doesn't have that experience. I'm not going to say that people of the younger age don't have great skills and great vision and entrepreneurship. They do, but put simply, you don't have the experience, because you just need time. And you didn't start business when you were 2. You started it when you're probably 18, 19, and in your early 20s. So if you're now in your sort of mid to late 20s, early 30s, you just simply haven't been in the workplace long enough to get a massively broad view across loads of different scenarios that can expose you to all different things that you're likely to come up against. So by plugging yourself into somebody that's got that experience, there's no shame in that at all. You have to be able to recognize the gaps in what you've got. It's okay, and reach out. You just drive yourself mad if you don't have somebody to bounce those things off and say, do you know what, am I going crazy here? This is what's happened. This is how I'm seeing it. Can you tell me, am I justified in this, or do you think I'm just losing the plot and need to calm down a bit? So it's nice to have that, and talk through scenarios. So I guess role playing. Hey, we're thinking about offering this. This is why we want to offer it. We've gone through it because customer A's asked for it and it seems to work, and we think others might want it, and just sort of go down that path, open it up a bit, and discuss it with somebody who's friendly and doesn't have any sort of detrimental impact on your business. So yeah, that's certainly what I did.
It's definitely they're there to challenge with the question why. Like, why does customer A want something delivered in 3 weeks rather than 4 weeks? Why have you chosen this specific set of goals? Like, what they're there to challenge you and to push you, which from what I've read is what a lot of venture capitalists do if you end up doing that. But I think mentors are a little bit more on your side than potentially some VCs are. I'd be
Yeah, for
interested
sure.
to know, and something that I've been thinking a lot about is the kind of goal setting side of things, which I've been working with the mentors on, is firstly how important goal setting is in general, and then secondly how your goals have shifted as your company has grown, and yeah, essentially how they've matured as time has gone on.
Wow, it's a great question. Given everything we've just been talking about, the fact that there's just so much to do, I found a platform called Trello. There's other platforms out there,
Great platform.
yeah,
Yeah.
but just a great platform. Post-it note, digital post-it notes, effectively checklists, all that kind of thing, because so many things are going on. It is impossible to keep them in your head. And even though I have notebooks all over the house with everything, I transition them digitally as quickly as I can, because you don't want to be flicking through pages and pages of notebooks trying to find what you just drive yourself mad trying to find everything again. So make sure you've got a structured way of note making and all your different tasks, because even within one particular topic area, you open up something like marketing, for example, and you go down Alice's rabbit hole of all the different things that are involved within that marketing realm, it's nice to be able to just have a checklist of things and keep adding to it and completing stuff and transitioning stuff over to the in progress and the completed, and then archiving it off, to really just make sure you don't drop the ball on things for one. So I look at this daily, and also to give yourself some positive feedback, because it can be a very lonely place, being a founder. And there's no one there sort of saying, "Woohoo, well done," patting yourself on the back, or patting you on the back. You end up trying to find whatever ways you can to pat yourself on the back, and let yourself know you're doing a good job, and you're progressing, and things are getting better, and you're getting all the tasks done. So that's what I found really encouraging and supportive to myself, making sure you've got those kind of tools in place. So we still use that a bit, and we also use Quip, which is a Salesforce product, which enables you to create a digital document, share it with anybody with an email address, and within that it's got multiple things. So you can do a project tracker, you can do a countdown timer, you can do calendars, you can integrate it with Salesforce records, you can do bullet lists, numbered lists, spreadsheets, or tag each other within it. You can do chat. It's all within this one document, because invariably what we were finding was, we were building requirement documents out for a client, and then it's a Word document, and then you send it to the client, do you agree with this? And then it comes back again with comments and things on it, and then you add a comment, and it kind of looks really, really messy, and you never know kind of where you're up to. So you need this live breathing document, if you like, where you can all contribute into it, and not have to look through, hey, have I got the right version of this email? Or wait a minute, that he said something there in an email, let me go and find that email. So it just makes life a lot easier, having something like that.
Yeah, definitely. I found that, I mean, to be honest, I used to do Notion and also Trello. They're kind of three things that I use for my goal setting. I've adopted something that's kind of from sales, I guess, which is the expression of stretch goal, which, you know, if you set your team, hey, book 10 meetings this week, and your stretch goal is 15, and then everyone can have a round on me after work. I have a similar thing that I've implemented myself, which is I just call a golden goal, which is, you know, if I acquire 100 users in a week, I'll also have 150, and if I do that, I'll buy myself a steak or whatever that may be. Especially being a solo founder, you know, you've got to find those reward mechanisms, but to have a positive mental attitude, because it's really tough. I mean, like cold calling is probably the hardest thing I've ever done. I've experienced lots of different kinds of business, like I've helped do some marketing projects and those kinds of things. And cold calling by far is just so demoralizing, because you get told no after no. You know, you speak to endless amounts of PAs or EAs and gatekeepers. And when you're doing it by yourself, and you're not in an office environment, and you don't have, you know, your man next to you in the trenches who's been through it, and they've had their 400th rejection through the day. It's very different to when, you know, I'm sitting in the middle of nowhere in a farmhouse just with a mobile phone, having the same kind of thing. So I think it's really important to keep rewarding yourself throughout. And then, you know, kind of beyond that, what does success look like to you? Not necessarily even for those goals, but as a vision, I think is really important as well, because I think that some people never stop, which I'm not sure is necessarily a good thing or even a bad thing. And I'd love to hear from your perspective, what is that success benchmark, and when do you think, yeah, I'm stable now, I've made it, and I can feel proud of myself that I've achieved what I set out to achieve.
Goodness me. Do you know what? I think once you make it through year one, you kind of like, all right, I was winging it, if for want of a better phrase. You know, we were really finding our feet, not knowing if this thing would work, establishing relationships, getting all the systems, processes, and tech and everything all set up, trying to make it look professional to the client. And then you kind of scale it up a bit during year 2, and it ramped up nicely for us. And I think when it came to year 3, where everything had really sort of bedded down, and we'd got all our templates and documents and website, and I wasn't fighting fires with, oh, I haven't got this, I haven't got that, we still need to get that done, need to get this done, and I haven't got that resource. Once all of those had been sorted out and the days were calmer in that respect, I was able to then get more frantic on the right, how do we scale this up and get more business. So I guess that was the key point there during year 3, where getting our internal house in order. We'd not only built the foundations, we'd put the bricks in, we'd built the walls, we'd put the roof on, and we'd decorated, and now we'd put all the furniture and fittings and everything in. It still wasn't exactly how we wanted it. It wasn't a finished perfect house, for want of a better phrase, but it was livable. And that was the key thing. Once the house was livable for us, because in business terms, if you've got no roof on the house, if there's things that are gaping holes in your business, then the inevitable is going to happen. The house floods, and you end up bailing water out as quickly as possible. So find the things that you can get done to get that roof on the house and get yourself stable and dry, out of the cold, if you like. And some things you have to pay for, but there's so many things out there that are free in terms of tech platforms that you can use to make your life easier. We would highly recommend that. And if anyone wants to contact me and ask me about the tech that we use, then feel free. Switching tack slightly, if I may, in terms of lockdown, I've shared with people on this podcast just what that's meant for me. So I'll direct this question just to you, if I may. What has lockdown looked like for you, given that you're trying to get this business going? So if you can talk maybe from a personal standpoint, how you were affected, what sort of things you did to keep yourself sane as possible, and what impact that's had on the business.
So as far as lockdown goes, I think when it started, the first thing that I was very conscious of, because again, I left an environment where I was communicating with anywhere from 50 to 80 people a day, or not a day, sorry, like in a team, and then going to just being by myself pretty much every day, was keeping in contact with as many people as I could who could add value to keep myself sane. Because I think that, yes, if you're not in constant contact with other humans, like the social aspect is actually really important. Yeah, essentially just keeping communication channels open. And the other thing that I've been focusing a lot on is just small self-improvement things and picking up a new hobby. So for example, I've been teaching myself piano, and also to learn to juggle. I don't know why. Nice. I just thought it would be a fun thing to do, just because I had so much more free time. Because when can you ever really sit down without any distractions? Because you always, pre-lockdown got people saying, hey, do you want to go for a beer, or do you want to go to a gig or whatnot? And the other thing that I think has been very important to basically invest in myself is the term I'll use. And if I use the analogy of kind of banks, that I'm going to make a deposit. So for me, that's reading, and then as I kind of progress and learn more and more about the environment and industry that I'm in, I can make withdrawals from the bank from these books that I've read. And the two that I have really want to share with the listeners of the podcast. So the first is called Hooked, which is how to build habit-forming products. So as a salesperson with very limited background on, the actual development and product side, it has been incremental in helping me design and build the Hoist, the platform, because it really lays the foundations of the goals you're aiming towards of whatever product you're creating, and it puts them in very simple and articulate points which make it very easy to digest, as well as unveiling a lot of the strategies that companies like Pinterest, Facebook use to engage users and make sure they're coming back. And the second one would be the Lean Startup, which I imagine a number of the listeners have read, and I think it's kind of the holy grail if you ever wanted to become a founder. And the reason being is it gives you the justification and product market fit behind any idea that you have before you commit to writing a single line of code. And that's the real art, is being able to prove that market is there before you even invest any of your resources and time and money into it. And I found it incredibly useful just because of one phrase, which is analysis paralysis, which is basically you can sit there and think and get your notebooks, get your mind maps out, or in your case, get your A2 bits of paper and mind map everything out. And you're never really going to know until you just kind of put your feet in the water and send 100 people that survey that you've created to see if people do care about if people are struggling with their cloud storage and wasting a lot of time in Hoist's case. And I used the framework that book provided me to get 20 yeses. And when I had 20 people say, yeah, I'd use this, I was like, okay, I've got a business case for this. I'm going to commit to getting this.
Fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, did you do anything like that before? So you said you got made redundant, which forced you into creating your business. Did you do any kind of product market testing before you dived into it?
The short answer is no. The reason why it's a no is because the nature of the industry I'm in, which is consulting on the Salesforce.com platform, I mean, it's a $15 billion a year company. It's huge. And at the time when I was contracting, the phone would ring 6 to 12 times a week from recruitment agencies saying, are you available? And so that in itself told me that there was a need. And I thought, if there's that many people out there, that many businesses looking to hire people, then why can't I start a company offering those services to people in a way that makes it more attractive than hiring a contractor? And that's really what I've tried to do. I've tried to establish a business that says, I know you're looking for a contractor to deliver full-time 5 days a week to do this, but what we have is a team of people that are available to you, whereby if you're not using them, you're kind of not paying for them. You've got a support contract with us where you can draw down as and when you need, rather than that person just sat there doing nothing. Because invariably, when you put a project team together to deliver something, especially on the larger projects, you can't all possibly be working on something all at the same time, because the delivery team, training team, etc., have got to wait for the thing to be built. So what's the point in hiring them right from the outset? So we kind of ease that for clients. So fantastic, Hector. Firstly, congratulations on making that jump, and carry on, my friend. It is a very lonely place, as we know at times, but also very rewarding. But make it easier on yourself by, like you say, doing those rewards. Quite like that, the golden goal, and I think things that just sort of give yourself a bit of a pat on the back and let you know that you're doing okay, and to keep going. So appreciate your time. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks so much, Lee. I had a great time. Fantastic.
Excellent. So thank you for joining us today on Business Source. Thanks to my guest, Hector of Hoist. Highly recommend connecting with him on LinkedIn, and indeed myself, Lee Nightingale of Connecting Business. Thanks for joining us, and look forward to talking to you again on another episode of Business Source.